For a dog born on the street somewhere, the day belongs to them. They decide where they sleep, which end of the road they fancy, who's worth walking towards, and who to leave alone. And then somebody picks them up, and all of that stops. They go from total freedom into a crate in a van with 10 or 15 other dogs. And that van doesn't stop. So they toilet where they lie, and they stay in it sometimes for a day and a half. Then the van stops, and the air changes. Strange hands come toward their neck, and a slip lead goes on. They get handed to their new family, and then they get into another car. By the time they get to their new home, they're quiet. It's a house they've never been inside, where they don't know what's round the corners, or which sounds to worry about. They lie down, they sleep, and we might think, good, they're settling in. And then we start doing all the loving things. Show them around, get friends or family members over, take them out for a walk to get to know their surroundings or establish a new routine. My guest on the podcast this week is Toby Craze. He met those vans back when he was an adoptions coordinator at a rescue bringing dogs over from Romania. He now runs Craze dog training in Cornwall and works with guardians remotely. Getting a dog through the UK rescue can sometimes feel like a series of closed doors. So adopting from abroad often looks like the easier alternative. That's how I ended up with my girl Garduna, and it's how a lot of us end up with the dogs that we have. But what's easy to miss is that a dog who spent their entire life on a street or in a kennel somewhere else, and a dog who's only ever known a home here, don't need the same things from us at all. This episode is about that difference and what it costs the dog when we don't see it. This is Just a Dog Podcast, and I'm your host Nadine. Let's begin. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Tell me a bit more about what life was like when you were younger, what part dogs played within your life, and then what led you to this moment.
Ever since I was younger, I had like the classic response to animals, and my mum tells me stories from when I was very young, like it's like big fascinating about like butterflies, and like this is like always being close with dogs. She always tells this story about how I used to ride my little toy car around, and we had 2 Cairn Terriers at the time, and I would like drop them bits of crisp as I would like wheel around on this car, which is a funny story that she tells everybody as well. So always had like a natural inclination to do something with animals. And when I was in secondary school, as I got towards being year 11, getting ready to leave, all my friends went to sixth form. I then diverted off. I went to a small college where I did an extended diploma in animal management. So that was my first real, this is the first step into what I want to do. What I wanted to do originally was I wanted to work with big cats. Actually, I always like dreamed of doing like maybe wildlife rehabilitation in South Africa or something like that. I have actually been to South Africa when I went to uni, because once I finished college, I then went on to university where I did a foundation degree in animal husbandry and welfare, and I did my top-up bachelor's in animal conservation science and behaviour. So I kind of like had this thought in my head that I was going to do, lions and stuff. I went to South Africa. It was amazing. Somewhere that I definitely want to go back to now that I'm older. And then when I finished university, so I was on that career path, it was like animals all the way, done so many years of education now, finished education. I was then very lucky to have my first job as a role in Thailand, where it wasn't with big cats and it wasn't with dogs, it was with elephants. It was with rescued elephants. Amazing project. What we would do is we would take volunteers through hikes through the jungle, and they would go and see elephants in a hands-off way. These elephants had been taken out of tourist camps, circuses, etc. And also their handlers, the mahouts, had also been given a fair wage to stay at home with their families and no longer have to work in tourist camps. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. It was all like no touching, no bathing, no riding. It was collecting behavioral data. It was right up my street. I absolutely loved it. Whilst I was there is where I probably had my first real experience with street dogs, because the village was just, littered with dogs. And it was great. Like, it was different to say like street dogs in a city, because the village dogs, it was a small remote village. The dogs were technically owned by people. Like they'd have like collars or pieces of string or something like that. A dog would belong to a certain household. But it was probably the first time that I experienced dogs in a Western domestic pet setting. Like dogs just freely coming and going, temple dogs, all that stuff. We had base dogs. We had dogs that would live at the base. There was about 5 of them that were basically very attached to the gollers, which was the Westerners. This is what the villagers would call us, the gollers. So we had like the goller dogs. That was my first, but it was like a passing thing. Like I loved dogs anyway. I enjoyed spending time with them. So that was like my first experience with them. And then COVID hit. Came back to the UK, spent a bit of summer at home with my family, which I hadn't been at home for a long time. So that was very nice. And then I got a job at a rescue as an adoptions coordinator. I applied for the role because of my theory, my educational background, my degree, etc. I've done a lot of people-facing stuff, a lot of public speaking from my time in Thailand, like guiding groups of volunteers. So I thought, hey, yeah, like this is up my street. It's about 5 hours from where I'm from. It was up in Essex, and I'm from Cornwall. So I drove up and down for a job interview, like in one day, up, down. I got the job, and then the things really started to snowball from there. I fell in love with the process of working with dogs, and I had to relearn everything. So the shelter is specialized in dogs from Romania and other parts of Eastern Europe. Very unique shelter. It was very cool because instead of having dogs just come over on the bus and put into homes, we would get dogs from our partner shelter. They would be handpicked based on their adoptability, or if they needed specialist medical care or behavioral attention, they'd come over. We would then do further assessments, and we do all the visits from the shelter, like in the UK. So everything was like how you would adopt a dog from like Dogs Trust or anything. You would do inquiry form, home check, series of visits. Dog would go home on home trial. So it was an awesome experience. What I realized when I went there was like, wow, I need to relearn everything I thought I knew about dogs because they were all foreign rescues. And I walked in with that like, oh yeah, I know animals. Like, yeah, all dogs love me thing. Like I'm an animal person, how it is. I quickly realized that's not the case, especially being a man as well. Like a lot of them would shy away from me or growl at me and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, like these are different. These are different from what I'm used to. So I realized that as time went on, we were getting lots of dogs being relinquished to us because like all our bios and stuff said like we were specialists in foreign rescues. So lots of dogs that maybe people couldn't cope with their dogs, their foreign rescues, people contacting us saying, please, can you take my dog? We were like, yeah, sure. Like we'll take your dog. And then I realized that, okay, a lot of these dogs need help and need work as they're not going to find homes. So I put all of my effort into books, podcasts, courses. I would listen to a podcast to and from work. I would get the information from it and then I'd apply it like physically and practically to the dogs in my care. And that was really great for me because it allowed me to train on the go and learn on the go. I was able to take these pieces of theory and bits, nuggets of information, tweak them to suit the dog in front of me. And I saw results. I fell in love with the process. Dogs were getting adopted, long-term dogs that had been there for years, like dogs that had always been reactive. And then from there, just continued to prove my skills. I was then doing post-adoption support. I was doing the adoptions, doing all the visits. I was then managing the team and I was training the team as well with behavior and training. And it was at that point where I was like, I love doing this, but it's a lot. And I'm probably going to burn out at some point, as we all do when we've been in rescue. At that point, I was like, I can do this. I can help way more dogs that are already in home. So I was like, I'm going to go and I wanted to be my own boss. I was like, I want to be my own boss now. So started my business and that takes me to kind of where I am now, where I've just been doing basically the same thing, like helping people with their rescues, not just rescues. I help all sorts of dogs, but still that post-adoption support vibe where I'm like guiding people through those essential first days, weeks, months. Maybe people have had dogs in their home for 6 months, years, where maybe their dogs are still very shut down, still very reactive. I'm coming in with this more specialized approach. I'd say it's like street dogs and also not just street dogs in situ, but street dogs that have gone through the shelter process, been through a rehabilitation process and then adopted out. So yeah, that leads me to where I am now. And it's all my work is basically like online now. One of the reasons for that is because of the nature of the dogs that I work with. When I was working with the dogs in rescue, I was able to build a relationship with the dogs who are more fearful of men, like hands-on, like be their primary caregiver. Now it's a bit different. And the dogs probably don't want me, some random man turning up to their house. So it's actually a lot more beneficial for me to just coach their humans online and get better results in that way.
Let's go back to Thailand. I spent a bit of time in Koh Samui. I saw lots of free roaming dogs and some of them didn't look very good health-wise. I remember being on the beach and seeing all these dogs and just thinking to myself, like, who's looking out for them? And then I just did a Google search because I thought, well, I've got like loads of time that I could just do something. Maybe I could see and then go volunteer somewhere. So I found one of the only rescues on Koh Samui and I spent a couple of days working with them and it was life-changing, absolutely life-changing, because that was the first time that I actually realized that a lot of those free roaming dogs are actually happy the way that they are in the streets. On my last day, I left in floods of tears because I saw a dog trying to chew through his metal bars in his kennel. Yeah. And it was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen, that level of desperation. What experiences did you have? Because I think you were in the north, right?
I was in the north, and that's when I was with the elephants. And then most recently, at the end of 2024 to late summer last year, it was in the south. I was on Koh Lanta Island working with Lanta Animal Welfare as a behaviour consultant, like part-time, dropping in, helping with some of the cases there. Again, like training the staff and things. They have such a well-organised practice and organisation. that, and the Koh Lanta is a very small island as well. So it's not very big. You can go up and down it like in less than a few hours. And because they've been there well situated for over 20 years, they've eradicated like rabies and all sorts of other diseases on the island. So they're all gone. And because they are right slap bang in the middle of the island, they offer free medical care to local Thai residents and with their dogs. And also they do local adoptions for free as well. So they're always trying to build this community, provide this education on street dogs where people may have seen them as pests, dogs that are hungry, trying to steal from their street stands and stuff like that. And teaching them how to actually like coexist with the dogs and actually also form relationships with the dogs. And it was there I saw this really, really special thing. And this is where Lantern Animal Welfare was fantastic and definitely lead by example. Dogs that would come into Lantern Animal Welfare for immediate medical care, maybe they came from Krabi, maybe they came from surrounding islands or on Koh Lanta. If the dogs had their urgent medical care and they were deemed fit enough to go back to the streets, they'd always put them back where they came from. What they would do is they'd go and speak to the locals, ensure that the dogs had feeders and people that could keep an eye on the dogs. But they would say like, look, the dog's been vaccinated, the dog has been neutered, and they've had their wounds healed. Like, can you just keep an eye on them and just feed them from time to time? And people are more than happy to oblige with that. And because of that, you have this really lovely community where you've got some street dogs that are, again, like technically owned by people. Maybe they belong to a certain restaurant, a beach bar or something like that. Or you've got the true, just free roaming street dogs, but everybody knows who's who. Like they've all got names. The locals will have names for them. The Westerners have names for them. And it's beautiful. It's really, really nice to see because those dogs are able to still live that really lovely free roaming life. But then they also do have the backup. Say if one of them gets hit by a car or something like that, everyone knows who to call. They know who to like take the dog to. They can put them in the back of their truck if it's safe to do so. They can take them to Lanta Animal Welfare. They can drop them off there. They can organize these things. So you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the free roaming dogs and you've also got like a level of care that they have as well. So, and with that comes this lovely generational thing where the locals, they have kids and they get brought up around dogs and it just continues and carries on like that. So from my experience, I was very blessed to see that in Koh Lanta. Obviously things will differ in different parts of the country. This is a difference from country to country with street dogs. You have different attitudes towards them, depending on where they are, what the education and stuff is like there, what organizations are there. But what I love about rescue when it comes to foreign rescues is not just, hey, let's bring over every dog we can scoop off the street, but actually let's try and change things in situ so that the dogs and the local community can live alongside each other and we can make it work so that we don't have unnecessary dogs coming to the UK that have a suboptimal life, are stressed out of their minds, lost their freedom, basically turned into like animals in a zoo. And the dogs who are adoptable and the dogs like the ones at Lanta Animal Welfare, the ones who were unable to go back to the street, well, then we're put in the work to rehabilitate them to a point where they would be able to go to a home wherever they are in the world and they would succeed. And then we have the dogs who are more likely to be able to do that. We match them up to families who are able to understand the differences and understand what life will be like with an ex-street dog. And then, they find those loving homes and you have dogs who thrive in those loving homes as well. That's my idealistic goal. My vision one day for the world is that we have dogs that are like, okay, these dogs can go here. They'd be really great in a home. They'd love it. Because I have seen street dogs who just waltz into the home. No problems at all. Like they've always been there. And then we've got the dogs who would definitely benefit from being on the street. Let's make it safer for them to be on the street, but still give them that free roaming life.
What impressions did you have of the foreign rescue and free roaming dogs before you started working within rescue?
Before, actually when I first started rescue, I was very much like, let's bring them all. Let's bring them all. These dogs are all traumatized. These dogs have all suffered abuse. Definitely let's bring them over. But I think also I was looking at it through rose tinted glasses because, like I said, where I worked originally, that first shelter, the dogs that were coming over, they were pretty straightforward. They were pretty easy. There was probably only one or two dogs that I couldn't go in with when I first started working there. Every other dog I could just walk straight into their kennel. There was no problem. It was only after we started taking in dogs that hadn't had the same experience in that same process that it was like, oh wow, a lot of these dogs are unable to cope. They haven't been fully assessed, even in Romania or wherever. They haven't been fully assessed and it's just been shipped over and that's where the problems are arising. And now they're going to find themselves maybe living in kennels for however many years. They've just been either scooped up, gone to a home, hasn't worked out, no rescue backup, into a kennel somewhere else and almost forgotten about. And that's that. There's come another number. So actually before I was very much yeah, let's save them all. No dog belongs on the street. And then as I progressed through seeing the dog's behaviors in the UK and actually learned more about it. And I was like, oh wow, this dog probably wouldn't behave this way if they were still where they were. And then through some trips to Romania, where I've been to Romania 3 times now, different places in Romania. And I've seen like a mixture of the two where dogs will live in a sanctuary environment. There's a really, really cool place up in the mountains of Brasov, sharing the bear sanctuary, which is also like a wolf sanctuary and stuff like that as well, from animals that have been in again, like the trades, like different circus trades, exotic wildlife trade. And some of the larger, more difficult dogs to place in UK homes, maybe they're large livestock guardians, big, powerful dogs that are really independent, really struggle with that enclosed life. They could just free roam around the wildlife sanctuary and they loved it. And again, they had that meet in the middle. They were free roaming, but also they had all the care and enough. They had lovely bonds with the people there because it was very hands off. So yeah, and as I started to see more and more of these processes and programs where you could have a mixture of like both, you could have the best of both worlds. I was like, yeah, that's like what we need to be doing. And now a lot of people ask me that same question, like, how do you feel about adopting foreign rescues out? And I'm like, for some dogs, it can be amazing. Like Nova, our Ukrainian rescue, amazing. She is a home dog. She is incredible. She is used as a stooge dog. She is very motivated. Like she'll do all the tricks. This is like as if like she's a selectively bred dog. She would not do well in a kennel. She would not do well free roaming. She is like she spends most of her time on the sofa. Like,
Yeah.
she's got a little bit of survival instinct, but not that much. So I see dogs like that and I'm like, yeah, of course. Like these dogs are fantastic. A lot of my clients have fantastic dogs who are incredible and I've done such great work with so that they fit into the home. I've also seen dogs in rescue that have just become a shell of themselves and they spend their time at the back of the kennel, permanently shut down, learned helplessness, barely getting any enjoyment out of anything in life, and they just basically exist like furniture. And yeah, that's really hard to see.
Yeah, that's a tough one. My dog arrived like that. It took a long time. I would say probably around 10 months for her to start really getting into like her natural, what I would assume would be her natural state, or let's say being a bit cheeky and taking chance.
Yeah.
Which is what I want. I welcome that.
Yeah, exactly.
You were saying about some of the impressions that you had about rescue dogs before actually working within it, and foreign dogs and free roaming dogs. Where do you think those ideas came from?
I think I just saw on the surface level, I would just see like dog with like mange or with like a limp or some previous war wounds and stuff like that. And I think this is, a lot of us still have that concept now. We think, okay, well, these dogs, they haven't got a bed so that they can sleep on every night. Like they haven't got loads of toys and expensive food and they don't have like groomers and all these things. And it's very like when you're brought up with that being the norm, you think like, okay, like every dog should have that. Like why are these dogs being cast out into the street? You hear street dog and you think abandoned dogs. You think dogs are strays. Like they're not strays. They're never owned by anyone. They're just natural dogs. And yeah, I think that's where that like idea came for me when I first started. And especially like you hear rescue, you get like a little bit of a savior complex. Like you see, there are some amazing transformations. Like don't get me wrong, like dogs who have been incredibly traumatized and abused and then transitioning to a loving family home. When you experience that, it's super reinforcing and motivating. And you're like, wow, I just want to do that for every dog possible. Being able to draw yourself back a little bit, just like put the brakes on and think that is good for some dogs, maybe not great for every dog. And like like you said, like, it's always this nuance. There's different levels to extremities of cases. And we might think a dog that's been severely injured, if they go through a recovery process and they are safe enough to go back to the streets, they can go back to the streets, like, and they will be fine. Yeah, and another dog that may be seriously injured may have a lifelong injury and therefore it's not safe to put them back to the streets. So the same dogs can have the same experience, but different outcomes and all sorts of things. But yeah, it's definitely that, because being brought up with like all our dogs are super pampered pooches and like, every dog should have access to this, but not every dog wants that.
So it's quite easy to go abroad, see free roaming dogs and think and project our own needs and wants onto them, right? Did you ever have like an aha moment where you were like, oh no, this is a whole different ball game?
Yeah. I mean, we've got nervous dogs in the UK as well. We have timid dogs. We have like obviously more anxious dogs. I'd say that where it differed with the streeties, the foreign rescues, the shelter dogs was just the level, I think, like being able to break through the barriers that they have up, how they live in this survival mode where they don't deem you as safe, like they have to 110% deem you as safe before, or else they're going to treat you as unsafe. So they're going to be more skittish. They're going to be more likely to use communication signals that we might not see all the time into our selectively bred dogs. Could we breed our dog? Well, hopefully if people breed their dogs to be more laid back and less likely to snap, right? So with the street dogs, they're very much, they'll tell you what they want. And if they want space, they're going to tell you it, and they're going to tell you it just like a dog would. Okay, like, yeah, I need to really study dog body language and become an expert at subtle cues. Because the street dogs will, yes, they will show you really overt signs, but also they'll show you so many subtle signs that if you blink and you miss them, or if you just don't know what you're looking for, you're going to miss all these subtle signs. Then you're going to see that big overt display. And I would say it's like working through the building the trust as well. And again, like going back to like to being a guy, they naturally have a predisposition to be more nervous of men, more wary of men. So no, like again, it's like going into the kennels and being like, why is this dog just running away from me? Like, yeah, I'm just a guy. Like I'm good with dogs. So like that aha moment of being like, oh, I've got to actually like work at this relationship. I've got to be hands off. I can't just go in there like being like, hey buddy, like we'll be best friends, and start like being really animated, like being able to control your movements, control like where your eyes are going, all those things. Like those are my aha moments, as being like, okay, I've got to behave. I've got to be thoughtful about how I behave with these dogs to make them feel as welcome and draw their anxiety down so that I'm predictable and I'm not erratic, and let them come to me is definitely one of those things that I had to learn. It's like, I can't be making all these first moves. I've got to play hard to get for the dog so that it takes the pressure off them. And yeah, and that's what I would say is like, those differences. It's like that pressure, the mental barriers, the survival instinct, the epigenetics, all these things working together just makes them, and the independence as well. Like they don't need you. They don't need your attention. They don't need your affection. They are independent. They can get by without you. So you got to work at that relationship.
What do you think more people could benefit from knowing or understanding about foreign rescue dogs?
I think the key one, definitely that independence, and just knowing that even if they haven't been on the streets, they probably have the genetics of generations of street dogs before them. And depending on where they're from, usually they do have a mixture of breeds that are typically more independent, usually like livestock guardians. And so just treating them as if they're just not like these super reliant dogs that rely on you for everything, that need you to do everything for them. They are very clever. They will tell you very clearly what they want. Like it's been a blessing having Nova in the heat, because Nova like conserves her energy extremely well. Like she's not super active. She's not super driven during the heat. She doesn't need constant stimulation. She very much goes through like homeostasis. She's just like, I need to cool down. I need to conserve my energy. So that's what I'm going to do. And I think one of the hardest things it is for adopters of foreign rescues is if we've always been used to like having dogs from puppies and always being like, we have to guide them through everything, bring them up. It's hard to then like take away that control almost, like, and just be like, okay, this dog is able, like if they don't want to interact with me, then that's them, like that's actually their true thought process. They don't want to interact with me. I don't need to change anything about this. I feel like as human beings, we're very much like, we've always got to be doing something. That's one of my biggest pieces of advice to clients is like, do less, do nothing, especially if they've like just arrived. You don't always have to be doing something. You don't always have to be trying to build something, trying to build that relationship. The more hands off you are, follow the dog's lead, because they will give you the signs. They will let you know when they're ready. And that's what I wish like a lot of people knew when it comes to foreign rescues, is that you don't have to be doing. You don't have to be exposing them. You don't have to be taking them for long walks. You don't have to be doing everything that you think. Just because they're lying in bed and they haven't moved for a few hours doesn't mean that they're bored, doesn't mean that they need to go for a run, doesn't mean that they need to go and see more dogs or see more people or anything like that. They sometimes just like to just exist and decompress. So yeah, that's why I like people to do. Be hands off. Treat them as like independent entities that definitely know their own minds. That's for sure.
Based on what you know, do you think that somebody benefits from sending foreign dogs to the UK? Because there's a system, right? Like, why aren't we focusing on improving conditions for dogs in their own country?
Gotcha.
Why bring them here?
I think there's like maybe just like a lack of seeing like a further goal. A lot of charities, and like a charity that I work with, the PAT Project a lot, and their partner shelter, fantastic. Like they do loads of stuff in the local community, loads of education programs, etc. In different places in the world, there's different attitudes towards dogs. Some dogs are more abused than others, etc. And the politics and the corruption, there's all sorts of different things that come into this. But like with the PAT Project and their partner organization, they do a lot of work together, and their future goal is obviously to have places where the dogs don't have to be adopted out. That would be their goal. Their dream as a charity would be where they were no longer needed anymore. And that's like sustainable goals for a rescue organization. I think a lot of organizations, if they are just there, hey, we've got these dogs like bundled into these kennels. We don't really have another goal. We don't have another plan. There is no, we're providing education to the community. We're not really working on spay and neutering campaigns. We're just literally in this for again, they're going to with the best intentions. We're trying to save these dogs on the street that are injured. And then we want to get them to UK homes where they're just going to be well more looked after. And that's where they should be. And there's not this scope of how do we actually change this problem at its core? If you type in to say like Romania, adopt a Romania rescue on Google, like you will have pages and pages of rescue organizations. Like ones, really good ones. They do have those sustainable goals and are trying to make that change in country. And then you'll just have some that just think they're doing a really great thing by they're taking the dogs and putting them in the UK. And again, I'm not saying these people, they're not doing it for money because they don't have the money to put into other programs. They are purely doing it because they think this is what we need to do to save the dogs. We just need to get them out of here. And that's our primary goal. Our goal isn't to do anything else. It's just to get them out of this bad situation. So yeah, that's why there's organizations that have this future thinking. How are we going to eliminate this problem for good? And then we have people that are maybe just doing surface level band-aid work to just try and the immediate thing in front of them. This dog is struggling, get them out of here. And I think that's the difference between different organizations.
What, from your experience, is an indication that a rescue or a charity or a foundation is legitimate and ethical and has the dog's best interest at heart?
Go onto their website and you just want to look into what are their long-term projects. Are they doing spay and neutering campaigns? Are they doing vaccination campaigns? Do they have tabs on their website where they are doing local things in the community? Yeah, it's going to their websites and seeing what programs they're offering in the local community and the outreach that they're doing and those campaigns that they're doing. Like Lancer Animal Welfare, for example, they go up and down Thailand. They go to neighboring islands. They have a mobile clinic. They're doing mass sterilizations and they're also doing talks and education. They're going to schools. They're doing all this amazing work. They have a really great local team. So yes, there are some foreigners there, like some people like doing some of the work there, but it's mostly it's Thai locals who are all doing a lot of stuff. So it's sustainable in that regard, and then they're going to pass it on to whoever as well. So that's incredible. Same as the PAC project where they work with Care for Dogs Romania. When I went there, I went to the neighboring, like the villages where they're trying to help the people in like extreme poverty, like people who you aren't really thinking about dogs. So they're thinking like, where's the next meal coming from? So they're trying to get in there into those places. They're trying to educate everybody as much as they can. They're doing campaigns, protests. They are boots on the ground going to kill shelters. And because in Romania, they have like the kill shelter mafia, a whole corrupt process that is linked into government officials and all sorts of things. And a lot of the really good shelters and partner UK charities in Romania, they are boots on the ground. They are going to those kill shelters. They are taking dogs out of those kill shelters. They are trying to shut those kill shelters down. They are trying to change government, those things. So that's what people want to be looking at. They want to look at what is this rescue organization doing for the greater good here? They've got to be supporting a spay and neutering campaign and vaccination campaign. I mean, like that, I think that's the bare essentials because that's just going to prevent so much. Like dogs do breed like crazy. So if dogs on the street can be sterilized, put back on the street, that is going to alleviate so much pressure on the shelters and within the community so people and dogs can coexist together. So that's like the bare necessity. What people also want to be looking at in terms of the rescue charities, what support they can give to people as well is a really good indicator. If they have a very thorough adoption process, so it's not just, hey, apply for this dog and they'll be with you next week. You do have to jump through some hoops to get the dog. So that's like, unfortunately, notoriously, it's like, oh, if you can't get a dog from a UK rescue, you're probably going to get one from abroad easy. They'll just take your application and you've got one, which unfortunately does happen a lot. We want the charities to be going through everybody very thoroughly. And then the support they should be providing people with qualified professionals that they can reach out to. PAC Project especially, like they have contact with me. And I know that for their adopters, they actually say that before you even adopt a dog, we want to see the professional that you have listed that you would work with if you run into behavioral issues. We want to vet them. We want to go through that. Rescue backup, definitely a massive one. If a rescue organization doesn't have rescue backup, it's probably safe to assume they are one of those charities. Again, best intentions, not going about it the right way. They don't have rescue backup. They are just shipping the dogs over with no plan afterwards. They've got no connections to any kennels, fosters, anything like that. It is just if that dog has bad luck, you're on your own, right? So rescue backup is definitely an essential for looking for if it's a good quality rescue or not, because they have places for those dogs and they thought about it before they've even brought that dog over. And that's why I'd say those definitely green flags for looking at a good rescue charity, but you definitely want to be supporting a rescue charity that if they are based in the UK, that they take dogs from other shelters, that the partnerships that they have with those shelters are all about sustainable change and spay and neutering, vaccinations, adoptions within the country as well. I think that's a massive one. That's why I went to Speranza Shelter in Romania recently. What I loved about that is they were doing like just the local adoptions only. So they were just trying to change people's perceptions of the dogs by saying like, hey, these dogs are not pests. They're not vicious. They make great dogs. And the good thing about local families, say in Romania, adopting dogs is because they already have this attitude maybe towards street dogs where they're like, dogs are dogs. It's really, and they actually work out quite well when they adopt dogs because they're very much like, oh, the dog barks at the window. They're like, yeah, it's just a dog. So actually it works out quite well.
If you could regulate foreign import of dogs or rescue dogs, what regulations would you personally put in place?
I would put in place that every rescue charity has to have a certified professional that's doing the assessments before they come over. Either they have one in-house, like in Romania, Turkey, Bulgaria, Thailand, etc. Like they've got one in-house. That would be brilliant. But at least having on, let's say they come over and they go to a foster, having someone do a behavioral assessment of them, like a professional doing a behavioral assessment of them, at least in foster or in kennels in the UK as well, that would be brilliant. If they are based in the UK and they're doing adoptions in the UK, they're organizing for homes and stuff like that, they're not working with the dogs in, I was going to say Romania as an example. They're not working with the dogs in Romania. So they are relying on the shelter staff's observations, which could be completely valid. But again, like everybody's perception, everyone's going to have different ideas of what constitutes, say, like a well-behaved dog. Everyone's tolerance levels are going to be different, especially if you work in rescue kennels. You become so laid back. Like barking for me after like my years in rescue, like barking just goes in one ear and out the other. Like it doesn't even bother me. For someone else, a few high-pitched barks could be like make or break before them like relinquishing a dog. So everybody's going to have a different tolerance level. So everyone's assessment is going to be different, and they may not be looking for it through, well, they won't be if they're not professionals in the behavior and training work realm. They're not going to be looking at it through that lens of, is this dog suitable for adoption? They might just be looking at, well, this dog's great in the kennel environment, but they might not be able to identify what are the potential issues that this dog might face when they go into a home. Whereas a certified professional is able to think into the future and be like, oh, okay, this dog behaves like this in their kennel, but it's manageable because they're in the kennel by themselves. Maybe they get frustrated. Okay, well, they're not redirecting on anybody in the kennel. And once the people have walked past the kennel, they calm back down again. That might change in a home environment where if they may be triggered by something and someone's walking by, and then they might redirect onto their leg, for example, in the home. And you got to think like, what is this dog doing when they're frustrated? And how is that going to translate to a home? So ultimate regulation for me is like, yeah, if every rescue organization, UK ones could do this as well. I know obviously with the bigger rescues, they have the funding to have professionals actually like on their team. But even the small like independent rescues of UK dogs could benefit from this as well. Just having a certified professional who is able to do those assessments. That would just like help a lot of issues for sure.
Yeah, you really don't have any idea what to expect. That dog is firstly captured. They don't know if they're safe. They don't know if they're going to be moved again. Like they are going to be in that potentially like fight, flight, freeze mode for an extended period of time. And there's no level of assessment really that's going to be able to give you an accurate description really of what the dog's character looks like, because they are in that stress bubble. It's an impossible job regardless of whether you have someone or you don't. But if you do, I see that the importance would be to ensure that that person is actually qualified.
For sure. And I think like in a perfect world, say like if all the rescues had the same amount of funding, perfect world, every organization that adopts dogs out from different countries, they should all have holding kennels in the UK, their own like situated rescue, that even if the dogs are imported over, this is when I first started working with rescue, I thought like every rescue was like this, that was importing foreign dogs. And I was like, wow, this isn't bad, because we do thorough assessments, we do all the visits, everything like that. And then I realized that a lot of these dogs, especially when they're being relinquished to us, they'd arrived on a bus and met on the side of the M25 or something like that. And I was like, okay, that's not how everybody does it. So if every rescue organization that does import dogs from abroad, if they had some transitional phase where they had a kennels and people like, because that journey, like the dog could be one dog at the starting point and a different dog when they arrive in the UK. So again, that was a blessing of us having our own kennels, is that there was no rush. It was like dogs going to be with us for a minimum time of 4 weeks anyway, whilst they get all their vet checks and stuff like that. And then we get to see a nice, like adequate time for them to settle into that kennel environment. We can get some really first impressions of them, see what we need to work on them with. So yeah, in a perfect world, if money wasn't a thing, if every rescue organization could have a holding kennels even if it was like 15 kennels, like the amount that it takes to put on a dog, like whatever, how many dogs fit in a dog transport, come in there, they stay there for a period of time, dedicated staff, transition them into the UK, doing a more thorough assessment. What do they like wearing a harness? What do they like being checked by the vet? What do they like when walking alongside a dog? All those things is going through, what you would expect, say, like maybe like Dogs Trust or Battersea or something, that they probably have like checklists on checklists that they could probably run through with staff. So yeah, in a perfect world, money is an issue. That would be great. If they all just pop up 15 kennels or so, that would be brilliant.
Could you walk me through, for people that might not know, like what's the process for a dog to, I think your frame of reference is going to be Romania, right? Process for a dog to go from a place like Romania to the UK.
Definitely use Romania as a point of reference, just because they obviously, like countries around Eastern Europe and just Europe in general, are easier to transport to us through land. So it's going to be a different journey, as opposed to the dogs in Thailand are going by plane, which in my opinion, actually, I think I actually prefer the plane as a mode of transport, because the process of traveling from a country across the other side of Europe is that sometimes they'll be with drivers that are part of the rescue organization. So they will actually know the dogs. That's great. But usually they're third party transporters. So it'll be usually men, random guys, and the dogs will all be in crates, and there's no stopping. Like you can't stop and let like 20 dogs out for a toilet, or 10 dogs or 15 dogs, whatever it may be. You can't stop and let them out for a toilet. They are in that van, all stressed, not knowing where they're going, toileting, etc. They have to get from A to B. Then they might go to a quarantine somewhere. They might go to like Germany or something first before coming into the UK, etc. So they might get a little bit of respite, but still, it's a long journey. I don't know how many hours it is, like 36, 40, something like that of driving. Like it's a lot, maybe even more than that. It's a long journey. So they come over, and then obviously they get out of the van, and you never forget the van, like the smell of the van. Like it just stinks of stress. It's just absolutely reeks. You can smell it. Dogs are usually obviously like really withdrawn, shut down, basically going to a state of learned helplessness at this point. So physically, that journey, it can completely change a dog. That can be the most traumatic experience. You don't know where you're going. Don't know where. All these dogs are stressed. Everybody's stressed. You come out the other end with other random people who are just, we don't know the dogs, so we probably stuck leads on them, taking them into these kennels. Other dogs are barking at them. If they're going in straight into a house, they're going into these places, things they've maybe never experienced. They're so tired. They stink. Like it's rough. Some dogs will decompress from that, and they'll be fine for a few days, and they will relax, and they'll start to show their personality come through. Brilliant. But a lot of dogs won't, and some dogs may have been permanently changed due to the trauma, the feeling of restraint, having any equipment on them, small spaces, all those things that remind them of that van travel, cars, vans, etc., could completely throw them off, and it takes them a long time to overcome that, because they've had this really big traumatic negative experience, and that's like up here, and then their new adopters are trying to gradually increase all these good experiences until it overtakes this massive traumatic one. So that's quite a process. And the reason why I say like sometimes I prefer the plane journey is, with the plane journeys, especially from Thailand, 2 members of the team would take the dogs to the airport, and usually one of the volunteers who had been working with the dogs maybe for the past like month, 2 months, 3 months, they would be the flight volunteers. So the dogs would know them. They would load them onto the plane. So the dog was loaded onto the plane with everybody that they knew, even though they were being passed over at the airport. Dogs go into the hold, have their flight. The first person they see someone they know straight away. That flight volunteer who's been on the flight with them meets them to kind of get them passed back over. They're like, oh, it's you. So it's a lot more familiarity, and there's no other dogs there, right? So they're usually like, there's not going to be loads of dogs in a hold. And that flight volunteer then hands that dog over to the new family. So it's done in maybe a way that dog's more familiar with. And I actually think, even though it's a crazy journey, and it's long for people, let alone for dogs, I do like the flight option.
How do you ensure that the dogs will be safe in a cabin? Like is it a cabin in the hold?
It's in the holds, yeah. So it's in the holds. They have to all have like standardized crates. They all have to make sure that there's nothing that dogs could harm themselves on during the flight, etc. So it's all very well equipped. I've actually handed a dog to airport staff, a family that adopted a dog from us, a dog in the UK. Back when I was working in rescue, they moved to Canada, and we helped with the process of transporting him. We helped them with that. So I've actually handed the dog off, but you don't see much more than that. So yeah, I couldn't tell you what it's actually like, but I imagine, dark, same noises that we hear, I assume. But if they have a dog on the plane, obviously they are accounted for in terms of like, temperature and all that kind of stuff as well. But we can't deny that just like dogs die in transport of like hot cars, dogs can die from stress. of flights, and it's still unheard of for dogs to die on flights. So yeah, I think it's just going by the quality of the airline and stuff as well, seeing which one you want to go with, seeing their process.
Lots to consider. And so when the dogs
Yeah.
come to the UK and they end up going to a family, what are some of the things that you would advise them when they first receive their new dog?
Yeah, this is the most crucial part, and yeah, because like it's really easy to misinterpret a dog's more shut down behaviors for a dog that's okay and a dog that's fine. It's fine, like, it's just having a snooze. Like there's no problem with that. I could definitely take this dog for a walk. Human excitement kicks in a bit as well. You may have been told. And I used to do this all the time. I used to re-drill into people like, don't do this on this first day. Like, don't take them for the walk. They don't need to stretch their legs. I know that you may think because they've been in a transport, they need to go stretch their legs. They do not need to stretch their legs. And that is most likely the point where dogs will get lost. They will escape. They've got no relationship with you. If they slip out of their equipment, they are gone, and they've got no relationship with anybody to try and get them back. So it's going to be a really hard process to do that. So just for that point as well, like, don't take them out. Leave them be at least 72 hours, I'd say. Provide them with the essentials. So I actually say to like make their world small. A lot of people think, okay, like they've never been in a home before. Let me show them all these different home comforts. The thought process behind that, very well and good. But if you're a dog and you don't know what any of this stuff is inside a house and you've just been let in and it's huge, you're going to be feeling so like overwhelmed of like, where do I go? What do I do? What's around that corner? Is this safe? So the smaller you can make their world in the beginning, just restrict them to like a certain like comfy space. And so they've got direct access to the garden so they can take themselves out into the garden. But don't be trying to give them like the whole house and encouraging them to go walk around everywhere because they're just going to get overwhelmed. And it's just taking it very, very slow during that first week. Again, like I say don't take them out for the first week, maybe even the first 2 weeks. Depends on the dog. You might have a dog who's very much like, I've always lived here. What do you mean? Like, I don't need to have a week about walks, case by case. This is why people should have a good relationship and have a good rescue organization that they can get support from. The dog, you said that the dog is going to be really shut down, but actually they are snuffling into me. They're playing with toys. They're really happy. Here's a video of them. What do you think we should do? The rescue organization could then say, oh, okay, like that's great. Let's try and do this. This is when they should have a professional on board as well. But yeah, that hands off, like the first week, the first 4 weeks, definitely crucial. Like, don't take them out to pubs. Do not take them. Don't have the whole family over. Just gradual, slow things. First week, no walks, just toileting in the garden. If you don't have a garden, just really, really quick, outside, 5 minute, offer opportunity to go toilet, straight back in, like to get from A to B. At the end of that first week, gradually start to increase their walks from the home so they know where home is. So if they do get lost, at least they've got a sense of direction. They've got a scent trail. They know where they are. Slowly start expanding their walks to bigger green spaces where you don't have to have so much pressure on the lead. Let them have as much freedom as you can and safely can do. That's going to make them feel less restricted, and then gradually build on it from there. But your first 4 weeks, you just should be focusing on relationship building. Just being like, letting the dog come to you, no pressure, no need for obsessing of teaching them to sit or do a down or anything like that. Just be in the space together, let them learn about you, you learn about them, and take it easy, which is the hardest thing for people to do. Like you say, less is more. And like I said before, people just always want to be doing. There's going to be something I can do to make this dog like settle in quicker. No.
Yeah, it was fast tracking
off.
results, isn't it? It's the desire to just like speed up that process. But this is definitely one of those things that you just have to follow the dog's pace. In my experience with my dog, she's not a sit, stay, come dog. In fact, she doesn't even know her own name. Like we speak entirely different languages. It's like I communicate through pointing in a direction and then turning my body in the same direction. And I think a lot of people that I know don't really understand that because a dog is a dog is a dog, right? So in your experience, what are some ways that you can bond with your dog that doesn't involve things like language or getting close in their space?
Sure. You touched on a really good point there. That's some of the relationships I've had with dogs in rescue where they haven't been like Nova, for example. And Nova will do anything for a treat, honestly. Like she'll do spins and waves and all sorts of stuff. She's fantastic like that. But like a lot of dogs, I've had really great like relationship based training sessions and things with them where it's been a lot of like hands off, like learning how to communicate with them through body language. My favorite game for dogs, like if they are that dog where they're not really like let's follow a lure, let's do like the clicker training or anything like that. It's always just to do like a nice game of treat and retreat. Like I love it. Just hey, I've walked into the room, bang, like have this treat and I'm going to walk away again. Like it's a nice, easy way of building a relationship. Just being like, hey, I will provide you with good stuff. And actually, I'm not going to pressure you. I'm not really bothered about if you come to me or not. Like I'm gone. Like, I'm nice and easy. I'm nice and relaxed. I'm a chill guy. And it's free retreat and then off we go. And I think like doing things like free work as well, just like really nice, like just non-pressure, like just letting the dogs do self-guided activities where we could like just be present, watch from afar. And actually some of the things that we used to do in rescue, like quite a bit with the more nervous dogs would be a lot of like sitting maybe like, at the far end of their kennel, and you could do this at home if you do have a nervous street dog, is like sitting at the furthest possible point in the room and setting up your phone maybe to record them subtly and then just like reading a book or sharing an experience like that where you are like, you're with them and maybe like gradually like ease yourself over to them, or maybe if they ease themselves over to you, not putting the pressure on, expecting there to be some big desired outcome. It's just like the hands-off stuff is better. Self-guided activities, a treat and retreat, free work, shared positive experiences together, and walks. To be honest, like when your dog is ready to go out on those walks, not having to always put them in heel or expecting them to sit and wait and all that thing, just being present with them in nature, like how you handle the lead, keeping that pressure off the lead, giving them more freedom, talking to them. Talking to dogs is so underrated. When I worked in rescue, I would talk to the dogs. I would have conversations with them, every single one, like narrate what's going on. Because they like a couple weeks in and they don't fully trust you yet, you are still going to be a more secure point of attachment for them. And they will get something from your tone of voice, even though they don't understand the word you're saying, but they will still pick up that tone of voice. You're more relaxed when you're talking as well. Like if you're having a conversation about, hey, did you see that dog over there? Oh, there's a plane in the sky. Like you're going to be more relaxed in your body language and they're going to pick up on that. And those are just some really nice things that you can do. And actually, I love things like that because you don't have to think. You don't have to think, oh, I've got to follow step ABC to get this desired outcome. You can just go with the flow and mirror your dog, do what feels good. I love that relationship-based approach and growing a relationship in that hands-off way.
Yeah. And so for foreign dogs specifically, especially free roaming, a lot of us, like, I don't know my dog's history, for example. She's a Galga,
Yeah.
and based on the tattoo in her ear, I would imagine she was used for racing or hare coursing. In her passport, the original owner, their name is blacked out. So I've got absolutely no history. But what I do know is she's never, as far as I'm aware, learned that a human's voice has any value.
Yeah.
Is that common?
Yeah, definitely. They've heard negative things with a human's voice, but I think there's just like always like it's a lack of early connection during this crucial periods for a lot of these dogs, which is why like we help build the value sometimes like in our words by providing it with safety. And I think that's why tone of voice, especially for street dogs, it's not always like, we teach like a reflex to name, right? Where we're like, if I was to say Nova, and every time she responds to a name, I immediately give her a treat for responding to a name. I can teach that her name means something good. And that's something that we'll do with puppies, one of the earlier skills that we'll teach. Street dogs, they may not want that interaction, maybe like with the food involved. Maybe they feel a little bit pressured by that. Maybe they feel a bit like, oh, what's happening here? You've said a word, I made a weird sound, and now you're trying to throw this treat at me. Like, what's happening? So that's sometimes I think that's why narrating the world around them and letting them create these hands-off associations in a non-traditional training sense. That's why I feel like what helps them form the connection with words as opposed to that standardized things. I think they just haven't been exposed to it from a young age. Whereas, like say, we have a puppy, we might, from the moment that they're able to go home with us, we might start conditioning kind of a reflex to name and creating like operant conditioning where like everything has a positive, like as a good consequence, right? So like the dogs are more likely to engage in behaviors to get us to do our marker word or get a reward. And these dogs haven't had that upbringing. So yeah, it's very alien to them, and they might be a bit like, ooh, what do you want from me here?
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. And I imagine also that's probably harder for free roaming dogs. What are some ways that you can give a free roaming dog some of their agency back?
Yeah, as much freedom as you possibly can. Utilize long lines like as much as possible. Let them make choices. So with like I said, she likes to do her food. She's very food motivated. She can be my stooge when I go out with clients, but she's still got all those street dog quirks. Like if I go out without Lauren and it's just me and Nova, and it's same vice versa, Nova will only go to a certain point. Like she will walk a bit down. She's like, okay, mum and dad both aren't here together. I don't really want to go out any further. Maybe I'll just go to the toilet and I want to come back in. How I give her agency there is like, I noticed that stop. I always offer her, I say, hey, do you want to go a bit further, Nova? What do you want to do? And she'll look at me blankly and I'll say, okay, well, what about if we go back this way and like signal towards home? Her body will loosen. And I'll go, okay, let's go home. Like that's what you can do for street dogs is just know that I hate, people always say, street dogs are stubborn. They're not stubborn. They know, well, no dog's stubborn, but they know their own minds. They know what they want. They know what they don't want, and don't fight it. I think humans feel like a lot of pressure. I've only been out the door for 5 minutes. This isn't a walk. My dog should be out for another 40 minutes at least before we come home. They have to go for a walk. They have to go through a walk. If they don't want to go for a walk, they don't want to go for a walk. Just bring them back in. And that's how we can provide agency to these dogs. It's show, like if they want to go a different route or they want to do something different, like obviously there's like compromises and that comes through your relationship. The more that you say, if a dog doesn't want to go a certain route, a street dog, and you say, okay, cool, no worries, let's go home. The more you do that, the more likely they are going to trust you to go down that new route in the future. So it's like delayed gratification. You're putting deposits into that relationship bank account, giving them their agency and building your relationship in the process. So it's all about acknowledging their communication. Like if you can give them what they need, and you can listen to them, adhere to them, and know that they do know what they want. Sometimes we have to think for our dogs, obviously, but a lot of the time with street dogs, they will do a lot of the thinking for us, and they are just giving us all the communication, everything that we need, they're giving to us, as long as we just know how to listen to them. And that's one thing, again, that agency is going to build that relationship up massively.
Massively, I totally agree. At least from my experience, I've seen that work. It could be something like free work. It could be like giving a packet of treats and letting her pick which one. The Amazon box with all her kibble arrives and she's the one that does the ripping and unboxing. Like it's just these teeny tiny little things that I think if you have an unhealthy relationship with control, it might feel a bit uncomfortable. But actually, I always ask myself, like, what's the harm? As long as my dog's safe, she can decide where we go and how long we walk for and, all that kind of stuff. And she can decide how long she wants to sniff for and what treats she wants. It's really hard actually to get, like when you pay attention to that, you realize there's really not many opportunities to give a dog agency, especially not in the outside world because of safety reasons.
We spoke a bit about like how street dogs can be maybe like more aloof, more independent, less likely to do X, Y, Z, and that a lot of dogs would be better off back on the streets, they're struggling in their homes and stuff. And I just want to chat about as well, like these dogs can achieve like really incredible things. You might like not adopt one and have it be the picture of what you envisioned of having a dog. They actually teach you like so many life lessons. Like I have learned like so much patience and just to be able to really just like understand another being, like what they're going through, because they are like their energy about them, like it's even hard to put into words. The energy about them, like they're very like almost like heart on the sleeve sometimes, like being able to kind of show you when they're like, like with Nova, oh, she doesn't want to go that way, so I'll go this way. It's like taught me to like know that things aren't that deep. Like there aren't any expectations. Like you were just saying, that was a very good point. Like you made there. As long as my dog's safe and they're happy, like that's all that they need to be. And alongside that, like street dogs have really just propelled me forward in my behavior and training knowledge because they're very fun in the terms that yes, they can be frustrating sometimes where they don't do the textbook methods and they're like, I'm not going to be lured. They're like, you can get that away from me. Like they're not going to make things easy for you.
Was that plastic squirrel? What is that thing?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not like sometimes when Nova's hyped up, we try and get her to like play with a toy and she's like, get off, get away. It gets you thinking like more creatively. And I really love that. Like to try and think about like just the smallest trivial changes that you can make can really like help a street dog like excel forward. And they're super rewarding and they teach you so much about dogs that other people don't know. And then you can just go forward and educate more and more and more people about dogs. Like they teach you like all the stuff that I've learned from street dogs, I can now apply to like every dog that I meet. So just say I meet the biggest, bounciest golden retriever in the park or something like that, I will still respond to them like in the way that I would respond to like one of my streeties if I was meeting a streetie for the first time. I'll be hands off, I'll turn sideways, like I'll follow the dog's lead, I'll watch their body language, I'll consent test. I'll do all these things that street dogs have taught me. They're brilliant teachers in that regard. And I do think like if you are someone who's in a position to adopt a street dog, and you've done thorough research, you're really happy with the organization, professional who has experience with the dogs, and you want to go for it, and that you accept that there's going to be some limits to what you maybe can do with that dog, life might be a bit different, and you want to do it, like do it, because there are dogs out there in these organizations who are doing things very, very well, who would absolutely love a home where people would accept them for them. So yeah, they are fantastic dogs. I know we sometimes speak a lot about how traumatic things are for them, but as you're aware, like the dogs from other countries can be like amazing companions and family members.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, she's completely changed my life. And just to go back quickly, I think you've just said something that is like an aha moment for me, because I've never thought about this before, but I genuinely believe, like you just said, if you can see and understand a street dog, you can see and understand any dog. That's almost like the baseline. That should be a baseline frame of reference, because they're almost like pure dog, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think people are very humble to like the first time they go somewhere like Thailand, and maybe they're already used to like Western dogs. They try and go for a run on an island somewhere, and they run past like a group of dogs, and they're suddenly being chased. I think they have their first like awakening of being like, these are what real dogs are. I think everybody should go visit a country with free roaming dogs, observe them, learn about them, go to the shelters that are there that are designed to educate people about the free roaming dogs and stuff like that. You will learn so much.
It's one of the most popular animals we have.
Yeah.
It's wild to think that there are dogs and there are dogs.
Yeah, no, and that's another like mind-blowing moment for me when I learned the stats of like around 80% of the dog population in the world are all free-roaming dogs, and breeds are actually a relatively new thing on the scale of when dogs became dogs and domesticated. Because even though the street dogs are part of the domestic dog species, it's different from like having pet dogs, but yeah, they are still that natural coexistent with humans. Where you find humans, you find dogs because of waste and stuff like that. I mean, like almost like a symbiotic relationship with dogs still, like in a lot of places. Dogs kill a lot of pests. So
yeah. And as a quick sidestep also, you've just made me realize that like with free roaming dogs, they would be used to seeing other dogs who look like them, whereas they come to the UK and then see like flat-faced dogs, or like they must have the shock of their life, be like, I can't read this face. What does he say?
Yeah, dogs with like no tails, flat faces, all sorts of things, and they're like a lot of street dogs are reactive to dogs that they're not used to, because they can't read at all. So yeah, it's definitely a thing.
That's another episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Ask you quick fire questions, and then you just say whatever comes to mind, right?
Okay. Cool.
Okay, cool. What is the best book you've read that changed how you think about dogs?
Oh, Sindor Pangal. I think it's Dog Knows. She's a street dog expert, and amazing.
What is a belief about dogs that you once held that you no longer hold or agree with?
I used to believe that every dog needed to be in homes, needed to be saved. Now I very much agree with keeping a lot of dogs where they are on the streets and in their natural environments. So yeah, that's a big one for me.
What is one everyday behavior in dogs that humans consistently misunderstand?
Going back to street dogs again with this one, the stalling on walks. People again thinking it's the dogs being stubborn, dogs digging their heels in. I got something out to get the human by completely pulling apart their walk and stuff like that. It's not that. The dog's stalling, they're doing it for a reason. Could be medical, could be behavioral, could be just, boredom. It could be all sorts of things, but it's not being stubborn. Stubborn is a human thing. Dogs can't be stubborn. So that's definitely something that I see a lot in my street dog clients, because street dogs freeze a lot. It's even been coined the Romy plant. It is very common across street dogs, and it is always misinterpreted as a dog being stubborn and that people need to just pull their dogs through it. No, you need to dig deeper, figure out what it is that's causing your dog to stall. There will be a reason, and you can alleviate it. You can solve it.
I didn't realize that was so common, because Duna's been doing that since the very beginning. What is one thing that you wish every dog guardian understood before bringing a dog home?
Oh, that's a good one. That dogs don't have to have every single thing controlled in their lives. Don't micromanage. Don't be a micromanaged parent. Give your dog freedom, give them choice, allow them to be a dog. They're not accessories. They are not just something that you have just because you've always had them. If you've had dogs growing up and now you're an adult and you're getting your first dog, look into what makes a dog, especially if you're getting a certain breed. Look into what makes that breed tick. What can you do with that dog to allow them to live their fullest potential of being a dog? And allow them to be dogs. Don't de-dog them.
Love that.
Get some like good routine in where you can decompress and de-stress yourself. So like when you do have to go through a moment where you have to relinquish some control, you can decompress afterwards. And start small. You don't have to just like completely just let everything just like go. Just like start small, like we do with our dogs. We start small. We incrementally increase the difficulty. So don't feel like you have to be turn into like go from control freak to super laid back. Take it easy, take it slow, but look after yourself. And that's actually a good point. With anything to do with dogs, we're always talking about how to make our dogs happy and give them decompression, choice, etc. Make sure that you are doing things for yourself as well, that you are recovering. If you have a stressful walk with your dog, we're always making our dogs decompress. decompress yourself. Like, make sure you have that support network around you. You have things that allow you to switch off. Don't make everything always about dogs, and get off social media whenever you can.
Yes, amen to that. One last question. What gives you hope about the future of interspecies living?
Yes, I think there are some incredible things. Like with social media, we always demonize it a lot of the time. Like, it takes a lot of our screen time. We're exposed to things that we don't like. Algorithms love controversy and stuff, and I do participate in that. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite. But with the rise of social media, we are seeing more lovely stuff coming out with different animals, people rescuing animals, people living alongside animals, doing wonderful things for animals. Like, even just today, I have a reel that's going out. I saw this amazing reel. It's of this guy. He's deaf. His dog's scared of fireworks. He can't hear the fireworks.
I saw that.
You seen it? Yeah. I'm gonna put like a little reaction reel to it today, because I just thought it was amazing. It's so wholesome. And that is what we want to be exposed to more and more. And I think, like,
Yes.
if the more that we share things like that, we're going to call things out as well. The more that we share like positivity and we get that out into, we can see that there are actually amazing people out there that are leading by example of how to live with not just dogs, but all sorts of animals. Like, I've got people that are rescuing, like doing lots of work with pigeons, lots of work with reptiles from the exotic trade, and really just being like hopes for humanity, and that they are doing this amazing stuff with animals. So yeah.
Thanks for the reminder. And Toby, it's been a huge pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. No, it's been a pleasure. Honestly, it's amazing. It's a great podcast. It's been a pleasure talking. I'm always happy to come on again whenever you want.
Yes, we'll have you back next year sometime.
Amazing. Awesome stuff.